Hey guys, and welcome back to Digital Artcast, episode 4. Again, you're with
episode. Me. Oh yeah, episode 4. You're right.
Yeah, we're on episode 4.
Titus. I forgot.
Yeah, he was 3. The best number 3, so yeah, that was it. So again, I'm Gordon Neill, back with Colin Searle.
Hey guys.
Hey. For those you don't know, I am an amateur artist just now, looking to enter the entertainment industry as an environment artist. And Colin, quick learn down what you do.
I draw stuff and get paid for it.
Yeah.
That's basically all you need to know. No, I work at LA Animation in Toronto. I do. God, what do I do? I do backgrounds. I do layouts. I do storyboard revisions. I do development work. I actually just put together a massive amount of development work for the head of the studio to go pitch, which he just did, and it was fun.
Cool. So yeah, Colin does all that stuff. Kind of jack of all trades, master of none.
Pretty much. And then I'm not even getting into what I do on the side, but that's the point.
Week in review. Since mine's going to probably lead into the main discussion, we'll start with you, Colin. How was your week or two since we spoke?
I guess I'll talk about last week, because this week has been like 2 days.
Yeah.
Last week, let me see. It was pretty much the same as the week before it. And actually, you know what? I can totally talk about stuff that is different than before. Cool. So I moved into a new apartment, which is fucking awesome. It looks really cool. We did a really good job, and by we, I mean me and my parents moved in like a ton of stuff. It actually doesn't look like a lot of stuff now, but I gotta get a webcam and I can actually like
show people. Yeah.
Show people, yeah. But like, there's Lego everywhere, and there's like cool shit. There's a Doom poster sitting right in front of me.
Nice.
Man, we had to put in like 4 or 5 light fixtures and a towel rack, and I actually still have to rip up the bathroom sink vanity, because there's like a giant red, I think, nail polish stain on it that the previous owner just stained. I don't know what happened with that, but yeah, I don't think the apartment people are going to replace that, because they're just. And I mean, like, even if I got them to do it, they'd probably do it wrong. So
yeah,
we're gonna do it ourselves, which is fine. But yeah, living on my own is cool. Did it once before with roommates, but man, this is truly on my own, and it is the best thing ever. Yeah. Like, took me about a day to get used to it, and I'm just like, this is the best. And it's cool because my studio setup is actually it's like beside my bedroom, but it's not in my bedroom. So bedroom is for sleeping and listening to audiobooks and reading, and pretty much nothing else. Mm-hmm. And then studio space is for like building Lego and painting shit and drawing traditionally and going, doing digital art. So yeah, like separate spaces, good. Work zone and sleep zone, which is awesome.
Nice.
And on the work side, I learned that I was going to be slowly transitioning into layouts and backgrounds, which I'm actually pretty happy about. Nice. Gonna be awesome. A lot of the interns are leaving, so I'll be taking over for what some of them are doing, and also doing some slightly more advanced stuff. Probably getting rough layouts and cleaning them up, as well as painting. Probably doing some rough layouts of my own, depending on what they need. It's really just what the production needs, and because I didn't really get hired on in the traditional sense of like you get hired on as an animator for 10 months. Yeah. I pretty much got hired on to just do everything. Which is kind of cool, because I'm getting experience in a ton of areas really fast, and that's pretty much exactly what I wanted. So score 1 for that, or score like 5 or 6 for that so far.
Nice.
It's crazy. Like, I've worked on, 3 series that are in production already, and worked on development for like another 2 or 3. So I like learned a whole bunch of styles already. Learned how to do algorithmic design, which I'll talk about later if we have time. Probably won't, but whatever.
Cool.
But like, holy shit, the learning is like, it's intensifying. And I think the last thing I'll talk about is, holy fuck, 7 workouts in 7 days. Jesus.
Yes.
So I mentioned this before in a previous podcast, but going out with the head of the studio, George, and his kids, they're actually both pretty close to my age. Let me see, Matt's, I think he's either in grade 12 or transitioning into university, and Jen is in 3rd year. But they're both really active. Obviously, so is George. We all just go out together. Occasionally, other people from the studio come too, but apparently I'm the only one who hasn't given up, which is kind of funny. But yeah, like 7 days, 7 workouts. On the weekend, I work out by myself, but in the week, we go for like an hour and a half in the middle of the day and just absolutely work ourselves to death. Then go back to the studio and draw more shit, which is awesome.
Awesome. Cool. So, you're just hardcore it basically, doing everything at once.
Pretty much the only stuff that I haven't really started back up yet is the freelance work and the personal work. But actually, that's a total lie because I just finally okayed 2 freelance projects, so I'm starting them now.
Mm.
And the personal work and the studies are also starting back up. Finally, I started to listen to like motivational speeches, the same ones I listened to before back in like second and third year. But it's sort of like I'm trying to revitalize myself and
Yeah.
get myself back into all the stuff I was into before because I didn't stop developing. I didn't even slow down. I was just developing in different ways. But I'd like to get back to what I was doing before, which is just kind of just picking up where I left off with all that stuff.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, busy as shit.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I'm not going to crazy amounts of conferences and industry talks and all that stuff.
Mm.
Although even that's a lie because I'm going to one on September 3rd and 4th. But
Yeah.
with that, let's go into your stuff because
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So a lot of guys that listen, or you might not know, but I'm just back from London this weekend. I was down for industry workshops, or IW16, as a lot of guys know it. So this was the third consecutive year that I had run. It
Right.
basically is a collective of guys from both film and game, and the art side, and they get together to do tutorials, talks, presentations, all that kind of stuff. There's also live demos during the weekend where people paint and you can sit and watch them. So yeah, a lot of big names. We're going to try and make our way through most of the talks I attended, talk briefly about what they were about, and then me and Colin can kind of rant on different design principles that they brought up. So yeah, just a lot to take in because again, it was over 3 days, technically four, and there was a lot to see and do. Some really big names, like I mean, some of their highlights this year in particular. Where now I'm gonna get this guy's name slightly wrong. Now it's Nick, and then it's Gindra. But he was from Naughty Dog. He's an
Ooh.
environment guy. Aaron Beck, who is of currently Infinity Ward, but he was previously Weta Workshop, and a couple other companies, and a lot of freelance stuff basically that he's been quite famous for. Ash Thorpe was there with the Collective Podcast. And then Thomas Scholes was there, from Utah, and he was of previous Arena.net, Disney, and T43 Industries. He's currently freelancing. And then, kind of like another big highlight was most of the guys from the CD Projekt Red team were there who worked on Witcher. It's basically kind of Witcher 3, and they were going over kind of like a lot of different stuff as well, contained
I
within.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you saw the CD Project Red guys, were any of them dragging you around like IV poles with just coffee in them? How the fuck do any of them like? I honestly I thought they're robots.
Yeah.
How does such a small team develop a game like The Witcher and not be robots? I
Yeah.
don't get it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, one of the guys I just added recently and started talking to was Marek Maje, and he is a 2D character artist. And when he was doing a panel, they were talking about like, Jingers working too hard and stuff. And his line was, "I'm
Oh no.
yeah." He was like, "I'm from Poland. There's no such thing as working too hard." So I was like, "Yeah, that pretty much makes sense."
I love that though.
Yeah, but
The guy and my boss would do really well together.
yeah, I mean, like he was just talking about how people always go about like, oh, juniors get a bad rap and people get taken advantage of. But definitely, he was saying that the hard work essence when you start is pretty much non-stop. You'll know in most studios, you're kind of close to the wire on most things, so you're always chasing your tail. But yeah,
Hmm.
so but that was a kind of overview. But the CD Projekt Red guys were cool. Like, yeah, they were. I saw two of the talks, which was Marcin and Marek, and one was based on 3D and one was in 2D. So yeah, they were awesome talks. I'll kind of start from where I started on the Friday. One of the first ones I went to see actually was a guy recently friended, called Nikolai Lockerson, and he has built his entire career using pretty much only the iPad and painting tools, specifically Procreate. I don't know if you've ever used that, Colin.
I've seen many people used it, but as I do not own an iPad, I have never used it.
Oh, cool. Have you ever thought of getting something about, for mobile sketching or?
You know what? I've used the iPad Pro. I've used that damn pencil, and it's the best fucking thing ever. The only concern I had was that basically with small tablets like the iPad Pro and Cintiqs
Hmm.
and even computer monitors, but especially the newer ones like
Yeah.
basically anything past the year 2000.
Uh-huh.
People that have been using those for a really long time. The article is specifically talking about Pixar artists,
Uh-huh.
but they're starting to get detached retinas, which is something bad that goes on in the back of your eye.
Oh, cool.
Eye problems, eye strain, past the usual sort of like red vein thing you get
Yeah.
occasionally. But people are having to basically like halt their careers and get their eyes repaired because they're just staring at screens for too long. And
Wow.
that's the thing about Cintiqs and tablets and stuff is they haven't been around for long enough that for any real research to be done. Yeah, so basically, watch out how much time you're staring at a computer screen or a tablet because there's not enough research. Take like a 5 minute break every 45 minutes. I've actually started to set a timer.
Uh-huh.
Like every 45 minutes to an hour, I'd get up for 5 minutes, do a couple of push-ups, take my garbage out, make some food, whatever. If I had a dog, I'd walk it, but I'm not home right now, so I don't have my dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just really, really important to get in like a good solid workout every day and get up every 45 minutes to an hour or so is what the research is currently saying.
Cool.
But apparently you can also get like yellow tinted glasses to negate a lot of the blue light that apparently Cintiqs give off that really damages your retinas and the internal parts of your eyes. I don't understand any of that, but yeah, I think it's if we're going to be using digital devices like tablets and Cintiqs for basically the rest of our careers, I think this kind of stuff is important.
Yeah. Yes, it's something actually I've always kind of thought with my own career, and especially me growing up in the time when computers were just kind of coming into their own. I've stared at screens for the past maybe 20 years, and
Yeah.
I've always thought eventually I would have to get glasses or some kind of eye correction. But my vision is still pretty okay. I've never really struggled to read anything even at distance, so I'm kind of lucky like that, but I mean, I maybe don't spend as much time as some working professionals. But the thing I think a lot of guys I always was told was the worst was when you work in really dark rooms like animators do,
Yeah.
um, and you have a bright light on. So like if you're working in a well lit area, it's usually not too bad.
Hmm.
But then if you're in like a lot of dark rooms or a lot of places where they've got the shades drawn, then yeah, that can start to obviously affect your eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but speaking of Nikolai, he talked about how he's never really opened Photoshop. He's always, used the iPad. And when the Pencil and the iPad Pro was announced, he was saying obviously that it was like Christmas for him. But his stuff, obviously, we were talking about it yesterday. His stuff, and it's great. The minute stuff he can actually pull off with just the tablet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, Nikolai's wanting to watch out, but he's actually got some stuff online, some tutorials. But he was also talking about that as well, where people were concerned about the iPad's light and stuff like that. But I know they just recently added a feature where you can change the light from blue to like it's not red, but like an orange, like a kind of amber, like the light that's supposed to help you naturally fall asleep.
Right. Yeah.
Did you know that or?
I've heard of it before briefly. I think someone in the studio may have even been talking about it early
Yeah,
on.
there is a switch on the bottom of the kind of like quick start selection where you can turn the iPad or your device from a blue light to like an amber, so it doesn't
Yeah.
actually it doesn't keep you awake. It doesn't like hurt your eyes as much at night. So yeah, that's cool. So I saw Nikolai. His stuff was really great. His painting demo on Procreate was awesome. They have an awesome feature where you can build perspective grids on Procreate really quickly,
Oh, sweet.
either 1, 2, or 3 point. So he done that, and then within the layer, if you put on, I think it's perspective assist, every line you draw from there on will be in perspective automatically.
Nice.
So it helps you mock up buildings and city scenes quite quick and stuff like
So
that.
it's kind of like Lazy Nezumi, but for iPad.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So,
Cool.
yeah, that's cool. So yes, Sonic Lie, that was on the Friday. I think the other ones I caught, like I saw Titus Lunter doing a painting demo. So he was working on some personal work for his project Discovery. So we watched a live demo of him painting for 2 hours. Really, really good stuff. I got a lot of stuff kind of answered on like his painting technique, how he works with composition and storytelling. And he was using his Cintiq Companion at the time, but I did notice a bit of lag with him when he was drawing with that. But I think because he works in such large scale, like I think roughly now, with most of his paintings, he's working in 9K. For
Holy shit!
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, it's a huge step up. But a lot of the guys, I think, were talking about that at the weekend, how they're working higher and higher, just because when you start to paint smaller strokes, you get more detail in. But then again, when you're working on smaller things like the companion, it's not really built with as much memory, so it can struggle a bit. I think he had to reduce the image he was working on to 5K to try and get it to work. So, but yeah, that was a huge thing. And then Suzanne Heldman, she actually done a talk. She's from the Netherlands. She done a talk on IP building with the snowflake method. So she was talking about how when you're writing and producing your own IPs and characters, how they basically have to be reactive and non-reactive. Also, how to describe them within scenes. That was a great talk as well. Really loved that. And then there was a panel at night, panel 2, which was the collective of a lot of the guys from the day. Moving quickly on to the Saturday, which was like the kind of main event for me. The main one that I watched was Borkor Eriksson. And he talked about painting principles. So yeah, basically just getting into traditional, how he builds compositions and painting. Borkor, for people who don't know, I'll link all these guys below. Borkor is from Iceland originally, and he worked with, and I forget the name of the guys who actually work on it, but he worked on the game EVE Online for 12 years.
Holy.
Yeah, so he's done a lot of work with them basically. He just recently left, I think about a year ago, and then he's in a kind of indie startup working on new IP. But he worked on EVE for a long, long time, and a lot of his work was obviously based around that. A lot of the ship design, planetary stuff. He showed some environments for not only space, but planet side stuff. But he talked about just the basic kind of painting principles that were the best things to get into for practice. I know one thing he talked about, there was a really good story he told us, and I thought it was really, really good. And it was, I can't remember if it was Borka that told it, I'm pretty sure it was, I'm 90% sure it was Borka that told the story of a really famous painter or artist, because he was talking about the creative process and how we try to struggle with it our whole life. But he done sports photography, sports paintings for Sports Illustrated and stuff like that. I think he just recently died a couple of years back. Do you know what I'm talking about, Colin?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so basically he was talking about when he was doing these kind of his paintings, there was a guy who used to report on a lot of his stuff in sports, and then when the painter was dying, and he was in bed, he was he was hospitalized, the writer came to see him, and he had a little sketch pad so he could communicate to the nurses, because at that point he couldn't speak very well. And just as he was kind of before he died, he was trying to draw the ear of the patient next to him. So Borkor was
drawing literally up until the minute he dies.
Yeah,
wow.
Pretty much. So Borkor was saying there was something kind of beautiful in that, the fact that even before his death, he was still trying to figure out how an ear worked. So
Jesus.
Yeah. a bit depressing, I suppose, but yeah, it's
that is straight up bucket list for me right now. That's going on my bucket list.
Yeah, deep, definitely deep. But yeah, he was just talking about trying to form a personal identity. I talked to him as well when I got a question to say about what he believes about personal work, and he said he believes that personal projects for people are something that keep you revitalized, that keep you interested in actually being an artist, because so much of what you'll do will be for other people, so you always have to try and wrestle back something for yourself. And that's probably what you're struggling with just now, because obviously you're full-time at Elliot and you're trying to obviously fit in stuff just for you.
You know what? That's totally on the nose. That's pretty much exactly what I'm going through right now. And the only good thing about, well, actually, no, not the only good thing. There's a ton of good things about working for Elliot, but one of the really good things about developing new projects, constantly on the side, is it's almost like personal work. He basically just gives you the pitch. If there was a little bit of development work done prior, he gives you that, and then you're basically given carte blanche. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I kind of doubt it.
Yeah.
He was just like, go wild. Who cares? If if it's not used, then we'll just move on to the next one. Or if it's not successful, or you're not really if the idea isn't really jiving with you, then fuck it, we'll just move on to something else. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome then. I mean, but I mean, you definitely want to try and get back to like your own kind of personal stuff at one point. Obviously, you were talking about yesterday about your ArtStation portfolio, and you really want to try and start mixing it up with new stuff.
Yeah, like new fan art, definitely. I was watching a Bobby Chu interview, and he was this. I think he was talking to Lois Van Barl just
Oh,
about
cool.
her stuff, and I had no idea that Bobby Chu didn't like fan art, and I was just like, oh. And I was
Yeah.
just like, I'm gonna do some fan art anyway.
I mean, like people have this thing against it, but I know. I was talking to the head of one of the studios that I want to work at, and based in Glasgow, and he was talking about how he started his whole art career in comics, and doing comic work. So, and he obviously talked about his days of drawing fan art. So, like everybody starts like that. That's how you start. You get into this industry
Exactly.
because you're a fan. You love the stuff that people already do, so you want to imitate that. You want to be like them. So,
Mhm.
yeah, definitely do it. Why not? So
I
yeah,
think probably one of the best authorities, not authorities, but like one of the best speakers or someone who has the best opinion on fan art probably be Jake Parker, because like he actually breaks it down into like the levels of fan art in one of his YouTube videos. I can give you the link to throw in
okay.
the description of this one. But yeah, he's like, so like level one of fan art is like just drawing the character as the character with almost no difference, and that's
Mm,
cool because
mm,
it shows that you love the IP, you love the character,
mm.
like you love what it is.
Yeah.
And then like the second level of fan art is like drawing the character but in your own style, but
Yeah.
not really putting your own spin on it quite yet. And he's like, then the third level of fan art is like taking a sci-fi character and making them steampunk, or like doing some crazy new shit with them and just completely reinterpreting the character. And I was just like, whoa, I never thought about that. And he's like, usually the people that go to step 3 in terms of taking a whole bunch of Star Wars characters and making them Victorian,
Yeah.
those are usually the people that go viral. And that's kind of how you get a lot of recognition, doing something that has never been done before, never been thought of. And it's super simple. Like, take a character like, I don't know, Luke Skywalker, make him
Mm.
steampunk, bam,
Yeah.
cool concept.
That was like.
No, that's actually literally already been done. Whoops.
Yeah, there was a guy. I mean, I showed his stuff to you yesterday. Connor Burke, the guy who done the Darth Vader meets Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Connor's stuff obviously is great as well, and that's got him viral, and that's why it went viral, because obviously, like you said, he's taken that character out of context and put it in another genre, which was the Dark Souls universe. But
Because it's
um,
new and it's interesting, and people are like, "Whoa, I've never seen that before."
yeah, definitely. I mean, like his lightsaber's basically a sword that glows red. There's a lot of similarities, but he's taken that twist on it. So yeah, definitely. So moving on to Borker, who was a great speaker. Aaron Beck was after lunch, and Aaron, like I said, works at Infinity Ward just now, but he obviously was previous most of his career in Weta Workshop. So Weta Workshop, if you guys don't know, is the place in New Zealand where they do a lot of the VFX for like Lord of the Rings and like loads of other kind of like stuff like Avatar and that, and other big, they're kind of the ILM of that side of the world. And so Aaron was based around here, but his whole design driven talk he done was all about like finding your voice as an artist, how to design, how to build. Like, he went through his whole kind of career, and man, that guy's a rock star. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of being like a kind of self-made man. Like, he talks about like when he was really young. I think he was like, God, like 19. He was doing some 3D animation stuff, and then with that 3D animation he done within university, he got picked into an animation place that basically took him as an intern because his work was so good.
Mm-hmm.
He had a hilarious, funny story about, the place was self-catered every day, so every day they would bring in lunch.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah. And then like he'd get home and his mum would be like, "How's the job?" And he'd be like, "Oh man, like there's a self-catered lunch every day, and they have beer in the fridge. It's amazing." And she'd be like, "What about the job?" He's like, "Ah, yeah, the job's fine, whatever." And then he started interpreting a lot of his graphics and drawing into animations for like drum and bass. Like, there was this whole thing. I'm going to be putting a lot of Industry Workshop stuff in the screen for you guys who are watching it on YouTube. But I'll put up the video without sound because the sound is actually from a copyrighted kind of music thing. But he done a whole thing where he showed this like drum and bass loop he done for when he used to like DJ.
Mm-hmm.
And like he would use like these robots that he drew and like animations, like 2D animations for like background on the screens and stuff. And then that was like him talking about like finding his style, how he'd love to draw robots and everything really mechanical. But you know, the guy, you know, I think he got out of like university, he got like a freelance gig with animation place.
Mm-hmm.
They paid him a couple of grand, and I think with that money he basically toured Southeast Asia.
Holy crap!
Yeah, and
Wow.
took pictures of like jumping spiders and animals and just like walked the earth.
Damn,
Yeah,
son.
and then he came back from that really quickly. And I think just after he came back, about 4 or 5 days, the tsunami hit. Um,
Oh shit!
yeah, so like the places he was walking about and taking pictures of, like it was
Just
basically
don't exist.
yeah. And then he done a really cool thing actually, where he used a lot of his photography throughout Asia, and he set up like an exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
And all the money that he made from the exhibition went to a charity to help the tsunami victims, which was pretty awesome. Yeah, just basic
Yeah.
cool humanity stuff. But then obviously he talks about like going into his career, how he painted and drew the kind of sci-fi stuff, and basically got into Weta through a contact, and then eventually they called him back up to work on I think it was Avatar, but he's also worked on stuff like Elysium, the film, and a couple of like, loads of other projects. But also within then he was talking about like personal projects, how he built this old car. Like he really wanted that. It was like I'm trying to think what the name of the car was. It was kind of like an American muscle car. And the money he had at the time, he just built like bought like a really old version and done it up. So I think he got like a bill for 3 grand for like a clutch one time, and he was like, "Oh
Wow.
fuck this!" So he got a user manual and a tool set and just built the whole thing himself. But he was showing us some of the final pictures. I'll try and get some of them up, but it was badass basically.
Damn.
And yeah, he's just talked about like all the stuff he's usually done for like personal work has always got him noticed. So yeah, super successful guy. If you guys haven't checked out Aaron Beck again, I'll link him in the description.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I only caught a portion of Nick from Naughty Dog's talk, about an hour. But again, he was
That's a pretty big portion.
yeah, well, it's 2 hour talk, so it was about half of it. But he was talking about design principles again, and he used some personal work that he'd done outside of Naughty Dog to illustrate like how to design functional buildings and stuff like that. Like he talked about this whole thing about a situation like if Russia won the space race, like how
Ooh.
developed they would have been as a country.
Yeah.
So he drew a lot of like pictures from that. So super interesting guy. And then the last one at the night is the one I kind of want to go into, and it was totally amazing, which was Mike Hill. Mike is a concept freelance designer now, but he's worked on huge projects. He's also working on Call of Duty as well. But his concept stuff is world known. But he done a whole design run on the monomyth structure. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so basically, if people don't know, with monomyth, a researcher that was kind of into like storytelling and neuroscience stuff like that went around the world years ago and found that everybody was basically telling the same story. Like there was the same structure basically, but then they just told it differently.
Mm-hmm.
So he used, the kind of things he's learned studying neuroscience, because he walked away from a studio to go back to study that stuff, because he wanted to learn how people basically interpret media and images into their brain,
Mm-hmm.
and how like your brain is broken down into like three kind of like pieces. And then he talked about like with, yeah, I think he used Terminator 2 to basically show how Cameron told the hero's story or the hero's journey through the monomyth, which was awesome because he broke it down scene by scene, and it was all about like the connotations and stuff you don't see earlier on about how. I'm trying to think of an example, but the bit at the start where John is running down a corridor away from the T-1000,
Yeah.
and like he sees Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnold actually drops a box when he's bringing the shotgun out, and it's like a box of roses.
Yeah.
If you listen in the background, there's like a church bell tolling, and then he walks and like tramples on the roses. So it's kind of like it's supposed to symbolize the death of John's innocence and his childhood.
Oh
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. So I was like, oh shit. And then even how he like it starts and ends questions that you raise yourself in the same places. Like, oh god, there's a really weird bit at the start where he's on his bike going to the arcade, and he passes this. It's like it's shot in this alley, and when John passes in this alley, you see the Terminator on the bike, and you're kind of saying to yourself, who the fuck is this guy? But then
Uh,
later on that, when he saves them from the T-1000, they come back to the same alley. And then he's like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm the Terminator. I've been sent here to protect you. So he shows how he manages to wrap up the question you had in the same place. So stuff like that, like loads of stuff all the way through. How like he's basically trying to build the perfect family structure, like with Schwarzenegger being the dad, his mum being
Being just his mum.
yeah, but then at the same time, through at the start, he talks about how she actually plays the dad role because Kyle dies in the first one, so
Yeah.
she's got to take over that mantle, and then obviously John transitioning from childhood to adulthood,
Yeah.
and how by the end of the film they're like the perfect family unit. Even stupid thing like I think when they're getting chased at the end and the guy's in the big ice truck and they're in a little van with a house in the back of it.
Yeah.
He's like, you would never see a car like that in America. So obviously they're trying to like determine like by now they're the perfect family unit in this house. And then there's a lot of symbols where like obviously the guy drives into the back of it, so he's trying to destroy the house.
Holy shit.
Yeah, even the fact that like every time you see the T-1000, he's always portrayed in a blue light, whereas Schwarzenegger is always portrayed in red light.
Right.
So it's so it's the other way about. So T-1000, the bad guy's in the red light, and the Terminator's in the blue light. So it's like it's good and evil at battle all the time. So like framing and stuff like that. It's loads of stuff.
Shit, I need to see T2 now.
Again. Yeah, I mean, like I says, once you point this stuff out, and you're never really looking for it, but when you go back and watch, you're like, oh shit, like I never thought, there's loads of stuff. Even the bit where he's on the bike, and he imagines them pull him off the bike onto his bike, and then the bike gets crushed. Again, that's a whole thing of like John's childhood dying and stuff like that.
Everything is his childhood.
There's so much stuff, and like passing through the arches in the LA Underground bit where the sewers, like going through the arches, like the transformation and. But yeah, loads of stuff you'd never actually think you would be conscious to, but then again you look at it and go back and you're like, oh shit, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Mike's his talk at the last thing night on Saturday was super good. It was amazing. I'll just move on to Sunday really quickly. And then I think the first one I saw on Sunday was so Thomas Scholes. So he talked about like his talk was design and storytelling. Thomas obviously he started at Disney in Utah, and then he worked across to 343 after that. He actually talked that he left Disney because he felt he wasn't growing anymore because the work was too easy.
Right.
So he left to try and challenge himself. So, but he was saying by the end of 343, by the end of like working on Halo 4, he was like ready for like shutting down because he was so hard work. It was such an intensive project.
Yeah.
And then he obviously moved across to Arena.net. And then he's done some freelance gigs since then. He was funny. He was talking about it. He's a hilarious guy. Like he's so funny to listen to, but at the same time, he's so intelligent and knows what he's talking about. He was talking about this jokey way. He was like, I recently unlocked level 30, so he turned 30 years old. And he's like, I discovered these things called weekends again, and also this thing called patience. So
yeah.
Yeah. So but he was
Two
talking
very important things that are absolutely necessary for humans to live like proper humans.
Yeah. He was even talking about how the guys who actually work something like the 40-hour weeks. There's actually more scientific proof that 35-hour weeks are more efficient. And he talks about like he talked about it over and over again, even with the panel that night. But he talked about how people were talking about like crunch and sprint and whatever else, and he was like, if people need to resort to that kind of stuff in studios, it's really just mismanagement by the managers.
If people need to resort to that kind of stuff, you obviously haven't planned your pipeline well enough, and you haven't hired enough people, and you're just trying to get by on
what you've got.
Too little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was saying, obviously, as a collective, as a group of artists, we need to change the way the industry sees us, and that's never going to happen if we just
keep doing the same thing, just overwork yourself to the point of death.
Yeah. I know there was a guy, I can never remember the guy's name, but it was just recently, I just saw it on my Facebook feed. One of the guys had to miss the last day of the event because he had been working so hard previously. I think he collapsed.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so like they were all talking about like it's great to work hard and be determined in what you're doing, but you've got to look after yourself, basically.
That's kind of insane, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is that something you're finding now that you're working kind of full time in a studio?
You know what? I'm actually finding the complete opposite because like it's sort of a weird transition because I'm trying to get used to doing simpler, easier work, whereas everything I did before, like it was purposefully hard because it was more detailed. And like it was crazy high rendered painting, and it was super detailed characters that I was animating. Now things are simpler, but it's a completely different way of doing things. So it's actually harder because I'm learning how to simplify and to make things more iconic, more cartoony, yes, but also it's just a completely different way of doing things, and it's like it's easy in some ways, but it's also hard in other ways because it doesn't actually come naturally to me
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, at least, but obviously you're looking after your health as well. You mean you're getting enough sleep. You're not staying up too late. You're trying to like work out
Most of the
and
time. Most of the time.
yeah, yeah. But then again, you talked about like how you've just worked out 7 days straight. So I mean, you like I said, we talked about this in a previous podcast. You know, healthy body, healthy mind. But you know,
Hmm.
you're trying to obviously make sure that your health is a priority going forward in your career. So
Yeah, like during school, I let that stuff slide a bit. In second year, all my friends still remember when I got this amazing beer belly. It was the best,
yeah,
except it was also terrible because it was a beer belly, and
yeah,
they're all like, "Dude, you had the most epic beer belly because you weren't actually that big other than the fucking beer belly." It was like I was just walking around just pregnant. It was man, it looks so weird. But
yeah,
yeah, like now that shit is never gonna happen again
yeah,
because I'm gonna get I actually am doing a lot better already, but I'm basically gonna remain in shape for as long as I can motivate myself to do so, which hopefully will be until my body starts to break down.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's hoping. Yeah, I mean, definitely. So Thomas showed a lot of stuff. Again, he talked about like taking back your own kind of art and style, and making sure that you are an accomplished artist before you lose your soul to a studio. He just basically broke down, how he works for clients now, and how he takes like an initial sketch and shows them it, and then builds on that. A lot of kit bashing stuff, a lot of building quick small levels for games.
Yeah.
But he's done a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, but Thomas's talk was incredible. So after that was two guys that I watched. I'm going to get these names slightly wrong again because they are Polish. But Marcin Klicky. He was a Witcher 3 monster designer in 3D.
Ooh.
So his whole process and how he builds monsters in 3D. And then Marek Maje at the end, he was a Witcher 3 character designer. And again, his process for building characters. A lot of you've seen these guys. There's kind of like a lot of overlap in design themes, but um, you know, um, Marek at the time talked about how there's a lot of things in nature you can find that are already quite fucked up. So
Hmm.
you can build from designs that they've already built on to make monsters and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
and it was funny as well. I mean, Marek's talk was really good, but he was super nervous because his English isn't a great way for him to speak just now. So he
And
was
add public speaking to that, I can
yeah,
totally imagine.
yeah, it was really difficult. But his talk was awesome. And then of course after that was one I went on to you about for about half an hour yesterday because it was so cool. So Giles, or not so Giles, it's Giles Ketting.
Right.
Um, and he was talking about IP and creation, and he done the Ashen Falls, the horror. It's based on Silent Hill 2.
Hmm.
So he obviously talked about like how he initially, like he's worked for companies before as his concept, but he then done his own thing where he was trying to make his own world because he was a huge fan of Silent Hill 2 and felt that like there hadn't been anything since then that had really captured the spirit of what they'd done in the second one.
Yeah.
So he was trying to build that world again. I mean, no rip off, obviously being influenced by, but it's also he has a female gay woman who is a female gay character and the whole kind of protagonist because he believes that the LGBT crowd isn't catered for in games. And that's something that he wanted to cover because he has friends who are LGBT.
Hmm.
So yeah, so he obviously is catering to that, and he just went through a lot of his paintings, a lot of the stuff he used with photo techniques. I showed a couple to Colin yesterday, kind of the house with the girl standing with the axe. Again, I'll link
Yeah.
this all below, but he is doing really well actually. His stuff has went viral, so he's been approached by. I don't know if I'm actually allowed to say because I think when he was telling us, he was kind of like, well, you guys really shouldn't say anything, but like he's been approached by studios basically who have been interested in doing things with it, and obviously games companies as well. But at the moment there's no actual gameplay stuff; it's all just concept.
Right.
So yeah, like he's really stunned that the stuff is doing so well based on that
Well,
alone.
he's got enough traction to, get a couple of 3D artists, some lighters, and some animators, and then just boop,
Go for it. That's it,
it's an indie
definitely.
game.
Yeah. And then the last one I saw at the end was Titus. So Titus Lunter, for those who don't know, again I'll link. Is formerly of a lot of different companies. We done an interview with him last episode. If you haven't checked that out, go check out episode 3. So he worked for a lot of studios, but recently Ubisoft. Worked on stuff like The Division, and now he is freelancing. But his talk was on I mean, like, basically how to be a unique artist, like how to not get lost in the voice of what is coming out today, like stuff like trends, like try not to get lost in what is a trend of painting just now.
Hmm.
Stuff like lens flares, parallax, it's like just basically try to rekindle your voice, so that your stuff is unique and can be taken seriously, so it's not just lost in the noise that is stuff like ArtStation, stuff like just online, art. And he talked about how there's a kind of circle where we need to constantly share information as artists, or the industry just stops growing. I wish I had these slides up, but he was talking basically about how if you don't demystify the process, then you just take it at face value, and then if you take stuff at face value, then obviously it's
Nobody grows.
yeah. So you've really got to dive into like why that image works and how it works, because then when you demystify, you can then start breaking it apart and understand how things are made, and that obviously helps you level up as an artist and find new ways to do things.
Yeah, like
So
that totally makes sense. Shit.
yeah, definitely. I mean, like stuff like the online resources we have, like Nomon and stuff like that now that they obviously teach. That's why everybody is getting how good they are so quickly. And that's what he says needs to continue, because like he says, the industry is based around a lot of mutual respect, and if you just hide away and don't really teach future generations, then again we stop growing. So
Yeah.
yeah, but let's talk in a lot more detail, just basically the process on how to break images down, how to start, how to rough. But yeah, again, Titus was in our last episode. We interviewed him. A great guy. Just go and check him out. And then we had the panel at the end of the night, and that pretty much closed up the weekend.
It's pretty cool how you got to interview the guy and then meet him like what 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I mean, well, I spoke to Titus on and off beforehand, but not in depth. And then again, we had the interview. We talked a bit more, and then we got to meet up. So, but guy's lovely. What you probably found is that weekend I had was that most guys, even the biggest guys that were, I mean, God, the biggest guys in the industry, were just so nice. Just nothing but time to talk to people, go over techniques. There was a guy, even another talk I missed out that I forgot to talk about, but Cornelius. Cornelius done a lot of 3D work,
Hmm.
and he uses that and Keyshot to make some really cool images. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like a parking lot and an astronaut with a phone box in the middle.
I
Um,
might have. That sounds familiar. Sounds like
yeah,
something that went viral.
yeah, basically it did. So I mean, again, as big as he was happy just to sit and talk to me and talk away, and then I spoke to him online a bit. Hopefully, we get an interview with him soon. Fingers crossed. And yeah, even Mike Hill, a lot of the guys, even Aaron Beck, and Aaron, like I said, is a rock star. The guy's been everywhere and anywhere, and again, he had nothing but time for people when he wanted to speak. So yeah,
Mhm.
and I think that's just a thing, and a general life lesson is don't be a dick. So
Just don't be a douchebag,
yeah,
everybody.
that's it basically. So yeah, so that was my weekend, and
Fucking good weekend. Holy shit.
yeah, very eventful. It's basically just cramming a lot of knowledge and talks into one weekend, but I think as an artist I've grown, I've learned a lot more. It's inspired me to get back up and start painting again.
That's
Even at
actually that's actually a really really big thing. I think one of the best things I've taken away from like industry talks like that.
mhm.
All the information you get is good, but it's the inspiration just to get back to work that's probably been
Yeah,
the best part for me specifically.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, again, I had a fear opening Photoshop, a fear of painting. I just thought, there's a person you can be when you get really envious of artists, and that envy turns to hate, and then you just
And
don't,
hate leads
yeah,
to suffering.
yeah, pretty much. So, but basically, I wasn't painting, I wasn't drawing, I wasn't really inspired to do much, and you know, I've got to admit the fact that I'm going to be crap for a while until I get better. But then also when I get better, I'll be, it's going to be, I'm trying to keep to terms with the fact that everybody's learning. Even Titus was saying that he was a small fish in a big pond, which I couldn't believe because he's had such an illustrious career already. But I could see with the guys he was talking to that were based more on movies. It probably was true because some of these guys are superstars like Aaron and that. But
Yeah.
again, just always being humble. That's the main thing you have to take away from that. And it's great that I got to meet so many people and network like that because even a guy we're trying to get on the podcast, Timothy Rodriguez. He's just currently of ILM in London, which is a huge thing. ILM itself is massive, and the guy was lovely. I talked away him for about half an hour. It was lovely.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was a great weekend. I really thoroughly enjoyed myself. And again, just a quick shout out to the guys who made it happen. I'm thinking of just two just now off the top of my head, but there's also Daniel and Alex, were the kind of two biggest influences for the thing to get run. I'm trying to think, I'll link all this again, and below. But Alex Heath and Daniel Matthews were two of the biggest guys I saw there who helped run it. I know there was other people involved, but just to say IW, thanks for having me. Thanks for putting it on and making such an effort to make everybody. It was so well organised. Everybody went on time. Everybody was set up properly. They all had because the thing is, there's so much goes involved, to making a thing like that happen over a weekend, and everything basically went off without a hitch. And apart from the talks and the industry guys, there was also people there from game studios and movie studios that were interviewing and doing portfolio reviews. They had free breakfast in the morning, they had coffee and tea and drinks throughout the day. They were all free as well. They had live demos on. They had the guys from Wacom there demoing their kit. Loads of stuff going on, loads and loads and loads of stuff. And
This sounds more like a convention than like an industry talk.
yeah, basically, it was there was so much to see and do, definitely. And the best part of it also was 3D Total were there, so they were selling art books. I was like, yes, got me. So I got to spend some money as well.
Nice.
I think I picked up their Art of Fundamentals book, and also the Art of Darken. Don't know if you know him, Colin. He's a magic artist, but
Yeah, I do know him. He's actually one of my favorites.
oh yeah, cool. No, so yeah, his art book was on sale, so I grabbed it. So yeah, it was a very eventful weekend. And also awesome because I spent £50. I got two free B grade anatomy statues, a man and a woman.
Nice.
So I'm like, yeah, it's good for modelling. So yeah,
Fucking awesome.
yeah, it was a good weekend, man. So yeah, and then I think what we'll do on the flip is obviously when you attend your talks as well, we can do a whole episode on that and go over the stuff you've seen, and the guys you
Yeah,
talked
I'll
to.
make sure I take pictures, and if not pictures, I'll just take a shitload of notes.
Yeah, basically, yeah, just so we can do the reverse. But yeah, definitely. So I mean, we'll probably just wrap it up there. I know Colin has work to get back to. But yeah, I'll link everything in the description. I'll try and add, everybody I saw and all their websites of their art stations. I'll also include, for the guys again who are listening, you guys can listen away, but if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put some video and pictures of the weekend up there as well. And also, obviously, I'll link a whole shit ton of stuff related to industry workshops, and how you guys can register for next year. If anybody within the European Union or even the UK wants to go to this, it's based in London, happens every year, and it is well worth the money. I can't even remember the ticket price, but it was under £200. I mean, for the amount of networking and things you're getting to see and do there, it's well worth the money, definitely.
Mhm.
So
Sounds good, dude.
yeah, man, awesome. Okay, so again, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks to Colin for joining me again. And yeah, check us out on YouTube. I am going to try and work on it this week to get us on iTunes eventually. And then again, if you like and subscribe, it would be great if it would help us out. And stay tuned, guys, because we've got more episodes coming. And a lot more interviews planned, obviously coming back from industry workshops. There's a lot of guys I spoke to who are really keen to get on and talk. So we will have a lot to do and say in the next couple of weeks. Okay, bye guys.
Peace out, dudes.